Hey, what's up, lightboltjoe here. Today we are going to discuss the 2022 horror film. Didn't know it was a horror film. Um, American Carnage. So this stars Jorge Landenborg Jr. We have Eric Dane, Jenna Ortega. A bunch of people are in this film. And I specifically watched it because Jorge's in it and Jenna's in it. And I didn't know Eric was in it, but I love Eric from Euphoria. He was a great character of Cal. So I was very excited to see this. Did not watch the trailer. The only thing I knew about this was that they were in this, and then the little blurb is what if, not what if, but this Republican governor issues an electoral order, an executive order, excuse me, where all undocumented immigrants and their children who are born in America. So if you're born in America, you're an American citizen, but it doesn't matter with this executive order. Everybody is thrown into a detention center and has to await trials and processes and all these things, right? So the kids of the immigrants are then given a choice: stay in the detention center or do community service for 3 months at this old folks estate, and then prove that they're worth being Americans, even though they're already born in America. So it's showing the disgusting aspect of the USA on both sides, both sides of the political spectrum. It's frightening. So in the beginning of this, I'm like, okay, this is going to be horrifying in regards to a dramatic film because it's showing actual footage from both Democratic and Republican about speeches of both leaders on both sides. It's just not a good thing to watch because it's disgusting. So I'm like, okay, so this is going to be like The Purge, because The Purge is very similar to that aspect of reflecting of what's currently happening in the world, but in a purge aspect. Currently happening in the States, but on a purge front. So I'm like, okay, so I'm getting in a purge mindset, right, on that political front. And then we're going through, and then like stuff happens. Like there's these old people that are just like possessed and like doing these crazy demonic things, and you're like, okay, so we're now in the demonic aspect of horror. It's not The Purge. And then things happen, and then it's revealed that these kids, these American-born kids who are children of immigrants, are being doped up with these different drugs and hormones and stuff to age them faster, to tenderize the meat, so that way they're processed into burgers for this Liberty food chain that this governor happens to own. And you're like, okay, so then we went from drama film to horror film to then science fiction, because we're now incorporating different chemicals into the mix to age people, to tenderize their meat, and then back to horror where they're being processed through literal grinding machines. And it's just weird. It's weird because then we end with the old folk who are really not old do an uprising and expose the truth and kill the oppressors and all these things, and I'm like, okay, where is the theme of this? Is the theme that America is just absolutely bat crazy? Is that the theme of this film? Like, we're starting out with a drama film, then we move into horror, then we move into science fiction, then we go back to horror, and then we go back to drama. So we went a full circle. We went in a full circle. But what is the theme of this? How am I supposed to say, oh yeah, this is a blank film, this is a horror film? True, but it's a science fiction horror film. But what am I supposed to be following in this? Like, at first we start out with real world America in a what if scenario, which is horrifying enough, and then we're thrown into this demonic stuff, but then we're thrown into chemical stuff and then cannibal stuff. Like, it's just it's a wild leap from point A to point B to point C. There's no consistency through it. It's just jump. And it's like, if we're getting from point A to point E, why is there no flow of it? The story was just too wonky. It was too wonky to comprehend. How did we get from illegal immigrants are bad to illegal immigrants are chopped up to make your hamburger meat at your favorite fast food restaurant? Bro, wild. How did we get there? how did we get there? I feel like it should have been explained more. I feel like it should have been um, processed a little better, because you have this one conspiracy theorist saying all these things in the beginning, and it turns out he's right the whole time. But it's like, it's not a gotcha or I told you so moment. It's just like, this is what it is. You're being processed for meat. Deal with it. It's just weird. Is it a run out to your local elections kind of film? Like, and it's not an inspiring film. It's just gross. Gross in it's not gross in a visceral horror sense. It's gross in a, why did we think of this? Why did we think of, we're going to chop up immigrants to make hamburger meat? How is this approved? How did this become, this is so wild, with all the turmoil and disgust and hatred that's going on in this country to begin with. How is this a, you can strive for a better America kind of film? I don't know, bro. It's strange. It's strange. It's definitely a conversation film. I will give it that. The soundtrack was gorgeous, and the actors did a great job with the material they were given, but it's just weird. It's very weird. I didn't know it was horror. I thought it was just drama, but here we are. We watched the whole thing, currently on Hulu. That's it. That's all I got. I got no fun facts. On to the next review. Mahalo.